Welcome to Moxo's podcast, The Process Orchestrators. I'm Naz, and today I sit down with Nima Saka, the co-founder of Summit Tech. Now, Summit Tech is a global tech and digital marketing agency that's focused on providing tech accessibility for organizations of all sizes. As an app development company themselves, Summit Tech chose the Moxo platform to optimize their client processes and internal operations. And Nima talks us through how this decision has cut down their project timelines by 60%. He shares how Summit Tech uses Moxo to enhance their client experience, increase internal visibility with the reporting dashboard, and accelerate their most complex processes with intelligent workflows. So tune in to discover how Moxo has helped Summit Tech scale efficiently while cutting costs, accelerate project delivery timelines, and strengthen their competitive edge in the market.
Hi, Nima. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, thanks very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. And where are you tuning in from?
I'm in Sydney, Australia at the moment in our Sydney office.
Amazing. Wow. Amazing. Well, I really appreciate you giving us our time. I know I'm in Cupertino right now and we've had to coordinate our schedules.
Yeah.
Very happy to get on your schedule and to be able to sync up like this.
100%. It's great.
So to get us started, could you go ahead and just tell us about your business and the industry that you operate in?
100%. So I'm the co-founder of Summit Tech. So we're a tech agency based here in Sydney, Australia, but then we service clients all around the world. So we're primarily in the tech industry. So we're building websites, mobile apps. We do marketing for companies literally as big and as small as they get. So building like big web platforms, mobile apps, but then also like just your little like website for like the local cafe, like anything in between. Like that's sort of what we do.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like you guys have a range of not only clients, but then services you offer as well. And
Yeah.
so before we dive into that, actually, I would love to know what started Summit Tech? What were you aiming to solve for? Why did you found it? Things like that.
Yeah. I think there was definitely a lot of conversations we had with the team before we started, and the biggest thing was making tech accessible to all businesses, especially with AI coming out and all these like different things coming out. We just saw this huge gap in like just your local businesses, but then also big businesses not being able to utilize AI and all these new like tech coming out. So figuring out a way to bridge that gap and making it accessible for people.
Amazing. And have you always had the vision of helping global clients, or did that happen naturally?
I think we always definitely spoke about what it's going to look like to sell all around the world. But initially it was definitely like sticking to even just Sydney or even just locally in the city. But just naturally we've had people reach out around the world, and we started like scaling international.
And so, can you go ahead and actually talk me through what led you look for a solution like Moxo? Clearly, you are a very tech-forward company. That's what you do. But were there any sort of pain points that you encountered or any specific moment that led you to look for a solution?
Yeah, I think we definitely we needed a way to streamline communication with clients and also make it look professional. So a big part of that was having sort of a white labeled solution where clients can download, the Summit Tech mobile app or whatever that is, but making sure it's a really high like high quality solution as well. So that's sort of what the team was looking for. So a way to communicate with clients through our branded mobile app that's also something super high quality. And we sort of naturally stumbled across Moxo. And then what we saw with Moxo was, there's all these ways of streamlining our processes and our systems. And not only did it replace the communication element, but a lot of the internal elements as well.
Definitely. I mean, it sounds like we were a great match.
Yeah.
I would love to know. So, how were you doing things previously? Through email or what did your process look like before?
Yeah, so initially it was whatever the client preferred. So it would be messages, it would be email, Slack, WhatsApp, it completely up to the client, and it was all over the place. And we had this one CRM where we managed everything and kept track of everything there.
Wow, I can only imagine that that was pretty chaotic, right?
Yeah.
And so, can you actually walk me through what the client journey looks like now?
Yeah, 100%. So, at the moment, what we do is we have a form that we get a client to fill out initially. So, it's they come onto the website, hey, we want to work with you guys, and we send through a form for them to fill out. Once they fill that out, we'll jump on a meeting with them and see whether we're a right fit from both sides, making sure that we can help them and they'll be a right fit for us. And then from there, we'll invite them onto Moxo. So before they are a paying customer, we'll get them onto the client portal, and they'll fill out their information, fill out some forms on the client portal, um, and then they can pay the invoice through Moxo. And then once that invoice is paid, we'll go into the next milestone, which is just going through the project details, going through, what they're looking for, inspiration. And then again, it's completely dependent on the service. So whether if it's marketing, really understanding what their goals are for the future, if it's website development, how they sort of want to be portrayed to the world, or whatever it is, and then sort of going through those different steps there, and then there's the revision phase. So sort of here's the final product. How can we do better? And Moxo definitely allows for all of that to happen inside the platform.
Oh, that's incredible. And
Yeah.
honestly, I'm so glad to hear that. I think um, just the way that you've been able to streamline your process and really, like you said, you offer so many different services, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm assuming you have various different templates and really get to leverage them all to their
yeah,
fullest extent, right?
yeah,
And so, what can you tell us a bit about? I think one thing with processes, right, and with collaborative workflows is that yes, you're able to offer all these different services, but you're also able to pull the right stakeholder in at the right moment,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And so it's really cool hearing about your clients, and I would love to hear a bit about what your team's experience is like on the platform.
Yeah, 100%. Um, I was speaking with one of the client success managers just before this actually. I'm just trying to see like what their thoughts were on Moxo and everything. And they were telling me so previously beforehand, when they were working at their schedule, whenever a new project would come through, they'd allocate 9 to 15 hours a week for a single project before Moxo, and then now it's come down. She said she would never work more than 5 hours a week on a single project because of Moxo. So I think they're all definitely loving it. It's this one place. Meetings are happening there, calendar events are there, all the actions and tasks, messaging, even emails that clients send, we can send them into the portal, and then that's all there as well. So the team definitely loves it. It's been great for them as well.
That is so powerful to hear. That
Yeah.
is incredible and oh, I just want to dive deeper into it actually. So
Package?
to cut out of that much amount of time, right, with each and every process is pretty huge. And so I'm
Yeah.
wondering, right, is it the reduction in admin work? Is it having it all consolidated, right? As opposed to having different clients on different, meeting them where they're at, right? You're having them all, let's say, do business the way that you do business. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you have any insight into what exactly it is that's allowed you to have such a decrease in the process length?
Yeah, I think there's a few different elements. One of the biggest things that made a project take so long was having to constantly follow up with the client, explain certain things to the client. With Moxo, we have that sort of workflow where a client can go through one by one and look at the next step and action it themselves. So it's great because sometimes a client, like if they've got their own full-time job and then they're looking to start a new business and they need a website, when we're not working, they can go into the mobile app and, take the next steps rather than having to email them. Then, at night they email us, then we have to respond back the next morning. So that really stretched things out with the projects. But then when it comes to the actual team spending time on the projects, I think the biggest thing is they just go into the client portal and they've just got everything right there. So we've got that like that manage view, which is great. So they can go through, they can look at all the different actions they need to get completed, and they'll just go through those like one by one.
Oh, that's incredible. That is really incredible. It sounds like you're using the platform pretty thoroughly, and I'm happy to hear that it is, reaping really big benefits for you guys as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I guess just to pivot a little bit here, mm, can you tell us a bit about what it's like to operate on a global scale, right? I'm assuming you have teams in different areas in the globe
Yeah.
and clients as well.
Yeah, I think as like one of the founders of the company, it's definitely always having to be available for the different teams is a big thing that is difficult sometimes. So having like waking up in the middle of the night just to be able to communicate with another team, or taking meetings early morning or late at night is one of the more difficult parts of having that international presence. But a really big thing is, yeah, having those teams worldwide working in different time zones, um, making sure that clients are always happy. The biggest thing that's helped us with cost and then also with efficiency with the company was keeping development in the one place. So having our Aussie team doing all the development in Aussie time zone, but then having communication happen in the different time zones. For the American team, we've got our American client success management team, and then for the Aussie team, we've got our Aussie team. So for the Aussie clients, we've got our Aussie team. So having communication be spread out into different time zones, but then keeping development in Australia, and then having teams sort of as like working 24/7 as like a backup. So we've got clients, obviously, something will go wrong, a platform won't be working. So having our 24-hour team working around the clock, making sure that all the servers running, all the platform is like all of them are running and they're all working, so that clients are always happy.
I mean, it sounds like you have things really systemized, and I would say it sounds like you're very accessible as well.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the platform is that, I mean, I'm going to channel Nikita here. That's our head of product marketing, but she says we drink from the cup that we promote, because Moxo uses Moxo as well,
yeah,
and we have teams all over the world, just like you, and
yeah,
the way that we're able to get processes done, get actions completed, and really collaborate with each other is through the app. It's that we have it accessible, and we are really brought into things right at the level that we need to be brought into at the right time, and so we're able to get things done.
yeah,
Pretty easily, I would say.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice to see that reflected in a client as well.
Yeah, it's really good. We've got the live widget feature as well on the client portal, which is really useful because then, because we've got those teams working worldwide, even if there's someone in Australia that's got a problem at midnight, they'll automatically get connected to a team member that's working in a different time zone. And then that way we've got that 24/7 support happening regardless. If like even though that wasn't what we were aiming to have, it's sort of something that we can promote as well because it just sort of happened by using Moxo.
I guess I would love to know a bit more details and actually backtrack a little bit here and ask you, like, when you were starting out, right? Were there things that you wish you had done differently? I mean, clearly, I would assume so.
Yeah.
But can you talk us through, right? How long has Summit Tech been operating? And what does that journey look like for you?
Yeah, yeah. So Summit Tech as Summit Tech has only been a company for almost 2 years now. Um, but then it's been, a company that was, previously established for 21 years has now been rebranded into Summit Tech. So that's sort of, I stepped in about 2 years ago and started this new branch of this company. Um, and I think even in that short period of time, there's so much that we've had to change based off feedback we've gotten from clients. And I think even just looking at the services we were offering, one of the biggest issues we had was making sure that we prioritize quality over affordability. I think we had a lot of clients coming to us saying that we, just do it as cheaply as possible. We want the cheapest solution. And that's something where now if a client comes to me with that, it's like, let's sit down and figure out what you need. And then we'll figure out what the best solution for you is, rather than just giving you the cheapest thing that we have available for you within your budget. Um, and that's led to a higher client success rate, like a lot more happy clients. Because we're offering them what they actually need rather than what they can afford. So I think that would be one of the biggest things that I'd change if we could go back to the very beginning. Um, and then another one would definitely be that centralized communication, because I know there was even projects that wouldn't get completed because the client would just give up, like they'd get lost, they wouldn't know what to do, how to move forward, and it just wasn't working. So it would be a project that it's 60% there. There's just a few more things we need the client to help with, but they're just lost. And they jump on a meeting with us. We'd spend like 3 hours just on a meeting to walk them through everything, but then they just feel overwhelmed and give up. But I think now, like, we haven't had a single project not be completed once we started using Moxo, because it's just streamlined that process so much for the client.
Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing. I mean, there's so much that I want to dive into there. I think one thing is, and we hear this a lot from digital marketing firms and tech agencies, and really it's not even industry specific, to be honest, right? Getting an action to be completed can be the most difficult part of a process, right? It could
Yeah,
be a simple
yeah,
approval, it could be filling out a form, it could be something that, you know, in all reality should only take a few minutes, but ends up derailing the entire project, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so I think it's again, I'm gonna go back to the power of collaborative workflows that really, right, as you were saying, your clients have the accessibility of your app, right? They're safe and secure in your space. They know exactly where to go and they're able to get their processes done really at a different time zone, at a different place, and without having to, let's say, hold your team's hand.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So it's pretty huge that you've been able to, right? Because Summit Tech existed and now it's been rebranded. And so I definitely want to dive deeper into that, right? That
yeah,
comes with challenges of its own. And I think we've talked a lot about scale and how your brand has been able to grow already in 2 years.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think another key thing that I'm curious to hear about is what retention was like, given that Summit Tech was existing for decades, right?
yeah,
In that transition, what do you think it is that helped you retain clients? Because scale is about both, right? It's about retaining your clients and acquiring new ones. And so just
yeah,
curious to
yeah,
hear.
yeah, 100%. I think a big thing with retaining clients was keeping them where they felt comfortable. So some clients, they wanted everything to change. They were sick and tired of the old system. They didn't like it. They wanted everything to change. So the client portal to change, but how we collaborate with them to change. Even how we communicate with them, they wanted all of that to change. And then there was clients that were just like, I'm used to this, you're in our system. So even we've got clients where, the company themselves, they've got their own Slack channel, for example, and then they want us to be a part of that Slack channel, almost like an employee within their business as a company, if that makes sense. So like one of the services we offer is our subscriptions, where instead of paying for an employee, like, for a designer and then a developer, you can pay us one subscription and then we'll give you unlimited design work, unlimited development work, anything really that we offer. And when we do that, they want us to be almost an employee within their Slack channel. So because we were so integrated with a lot of these companies, own systems, they found it very difficult. They would have found it very difficult if we were to, move them and switch them to this new company, Summit Tech, you know, um, with our new systems, with the messaging, or even with Moxo later down the track. So, a big thing we had to make sure we did was figure out how we can keep those clients functioning the way that we currently were, and then how we can also bring this new team in and these new employees in, these new systems in, and I think that was a big thing that we really had to juggle and figure out, brainstorm, okay, how are we going to do this effectively? And then another element was rebranding our reputation as well. So, um, the previous company was internationally based, as in the developers were all also international. So, communication was difficult at times, and there was all these different elements there where we had to figure out, okay, there's clients who want to leave because of communication. How do we like regain their trust by, providing better communication and providing better quality work as well? So I think that was another element. And the most efficient way we were able to do that was just by giving them trials. So for example, a client wanted to leave. Hey, we've just changed everything. Here's a 1 week trial with us, with our new team, with our new employees, and just give us another go. And I think, it was our work that spoke for itself rather than, a salesperson sitting down with them and just selling them on who we are now.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, it sounds like you really have a lot of passion and a lot of care for your clients, whether they're existing or new. And I'm glad
100%.
that you
Yeah.
were able to streamline communication and really keep them engaged and keep their trust with you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing you said while you were speaking just now is that in that transition, right, with adopting a new system and everything, you also had new team members. And so,
Yeah,
can you
yeah,
talk a little bit about? I guess I'd be curious to hear about what your company culture has been like with the change and with the Moxo platform as well.
yeah, yeah. Um, I think a big difference has been a lot of the people coming through or even existing clients were so used to Slack. I think in the digital marketing space, Slack's like really that big place to communicate and collaborate. And even when we moved to Moxo, like team members would be like, "Hey, just send me a Slack," but they're sending messages over Moxo, for example, and and it was confusing for some people. Like, do I talk to you on Slack? Even like we have new employees come on and they're like, they're all in Moxo, but then they're like, "Where's the Slack channel? I can't find it." And they get so confused. But I think a really good thing with Moxo as well, it's so easy to pick up for the client and for the internal team. A lot of the solutions that we've worked with in the past, it's either tailored so that the clients find it really easy or the internal team finds it really easy. There's never that balance there. So I think having that where we can send it to a client and they just intuitively know what to do, but then also our team, they can just jump on the platform. I just show them where everything is and then they know what to do. I think that's really helped the team like quickly grab onto the platform and start using it.
And I think as you're talking about it, I'm really curious to hear what your personal experience is like, given that you are the founder and
Yeah.
director, right? What is your experience like on Moxo?
Yeah, I think so initially when we first used Moxo, it was just me using it with two or three of our clients, sort of trialing it and seeing whether it would work and if it's gonna be effective. And I personally I fell in love with it straight away. Like I used it, there was so much room for creativity, and that's my favorite thing when it comes to our team. Like um going in and creating those like flow templates and all that and just like every week figuring out how do we make it better. So our flow templates literally are changing like probably every week because it's like we've just done, three new projects and we've seen that, with these three new projects, they've all needed us to do this task. So let's add that task onto the flow. Or even just like, having the meetings in the Summit Tech branded portal, having such a high quality app, like all those elements are things that I personally really love. I think sending it to a client, hey, download our app, and it's such a good app because we're also a tech company. Like it is very important that if we are going to get a client to download an app, that it's a high quality app, especially if our logos on it, especially if we're developing an app for that client. So I think having such a high quality app was also a really big thing for me, which I really loved. But definitely my favorite part would be the flow workspaces. They're so intuitive. They look really good as well. And I think that would be definitely the biggest thing with Moxo for me.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, let's talk more about flows then.
Yeah,
Honestly, I really liked what you said about being creative. Obviously, right, with the work that you
yeah,
do, that's
yeah,
probably inherent in you and every one of your team members. And I really think, right, when it comes to being innovative, there's so many different facets to it. But I think with these collaborative workflows and flow workspaces, what you're able to do is, like you said, be adaptable, right? Yes, we have
100%.
templates and you can build them out to really get business done the way that you want to be or you want
Yeah,
to do it, right?
yeah,
As
yeah,
opposed
yeah,
to meeting your clients where they're at, being on their Slack channels and what you had to go through before. But now, right, you're doing business the way you want it to be done, and you're also tailoring it and you're personalizing it to every one of
yeah,
your clients, right? And so I
yeah,
think
yeah,
yeah, and I think you're really able to offer, I would say, an excellent service experience in doing so, right?
100%. Yeah,
And so I guess, hmm, one thing that comes to mind is I think that approval chase, right? And a lot of the things that you mentioned or the pain points that you were dealing with before are things that digital marketing agencies, tech firms deal with on a daily basis. And so I guess I'd love to hear if you have advice to similar firms, right? Given where you're at now, what you've been able to do and how big you've been able to scale, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest thing would be finding what works for the company and their team. And look, for us, it definitely was Moxo and a few things internally as well. Even like things as simple as like just an Excel sheet, for example. But I think finding that process and then sticking to it is so essential. And then finding a platform that allows you to do everything you need in the one place. So before, like, invoices were happening here, and then there's communication happening here, project management somewhere else. With Moxo, being able to have everything that we needed in the one platform was what allowed us to move forward and to scale and not worry about all these different things. So I guess, like, finding that platform that is able to at least cover 90% of what you need, and then just having that as like a templated thing for all your projects.
Your advice to other firms is really great, and it really seems like, right, Moxo has become quite the differentiator for you as well in
Yeah,
what you've been
yeah,
able to do and accomplish, right? And so I guess, on similar line, you guys work a lot with AI and automation, and so do you have any thoughts about the future of digital marketing in that sense, and what you hope to achieve with it as well?
yeah, 100%. I think a big thing that we're looking at as a company is how we can not only just automate marketing and what that looks like, but enhance it and make it become something better. I think a big thing we've found with AI is it's it can do a lot when it comes to automation and replacing the human force, but it is a lot more powerful when it's paired with the human force, and that's what we've seen. So we're creating platforms and tools where our team can go onto these and just become 100 times more efficient, but then also create things that normally we couldn't create in such short time. So for example, if a client comes to us and there's just this new product they've released yesterday, rather than taking a whole month to figure out what the new marketing campaign will be, we can do that within a week and create something where we can test it with AI. We've got all the data from the market, so we can see, with this specific marketing campaign, we can estimate what the results are going to look like. So I think with yeah, the new future and with AI, like we've been able to develop all these different tools that can really enhance what marketing looks like moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more that, I think I like to call it blended automation, this
Yeah,
really
yeah,
having automation and even AI and really combining that with that human element that you
yeah,
can't get rid of when it comes to these high touch services and industries, right?
100%. Yeah, yeah,
I think it just makes this beautiful combination and not only does it I mean, automation and AI are there to assist the knowledge worker, right?
yeah,
Effectively,
yeah,
they're there as tools, like you said, and they are there to make us more efficient and us more effective, and really kind of get rid of the back and forth, the chase, the approval chase that I mentioned earlier, the constant admin work, and all the hours that we spend doing things that really could be taken care of by something much more efficient, right?
yeah, yeah,
I know you talked a little bit about, or you gave us an incredible statistic about the decrease in process length that came from your CSM.
yeah.
Do you have any other measurable key statistics or increases in efficiency that you could share?
Yeah, 100%. I was speaking with the team before this. So a few of the things we were looking at, one was just with our standard websites, like a 5-page website for your local cafe or little store or whatever. Um, it would take 6 to 10 weeks to complete a website like that, which for most people isn't ideal at all, because for us as developers, it would take us around 2 weeks to design it and 2 to 3 weeks to develop it. Um, because we just wouldn't get the information in time, and we'd have to go back and forth with the client heaps. So it would mean that my developers are working more on the project, which is costing me more and then costing the client more for a website that realistically could be done for a lot cheaper. So with Moxa, we went from it taking 6 to 10 weeks to develop a standard website to only 3 to 5 weeks, which is pretty much cut in half, which also meant our prices were a lot more competitive, and it gave us more margin to work with. And then a client is getting a website so much quicker. So they're still excited about it. And if they're like, we've got clients that come to us the day before they need a website. And with Moxo, because they can just go in and fill everything out themselves, and they're not waiting on my team to follow up with things, they can just go through and do all of that. And then we can go in and, develop the website for them. So I think that's been a big thing with how quickly we can finish projects. And then the other one, the other like big thing would be how much time our client success team's working on each individual project. So now that everything's streamlined, Moxo's sending out reminders, Moxo's got all the tasks the client needs to do. So really the client success manager just needs to get an understanding of the project and just, make sure the client's always happy. That's when we've cut down the time from 9 hours a week to around 4 hours a week now with Moxo.
That is really powerful, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you reference or um I appreciate you talking to your team about it and really having these things on hand and knowing them in and out, right? That is crazy to hear. I
You are.
mean, I can only imagine that type of efficiency. And so I guess I mean, on that note, I know you've shared so many things with us and really have told us about your clients, your team, your business, your growth, and everything. And so I'd be really curious to hear, are there any specific success stories that you would want to share? Anything that comes to mind there?
Um, I think it's so difficult because the projects we're the most keen about are ones that we've got NDAs with. So,
Okay.
all the bigger projects, there's all NDAs with them. But I think a lot of them like big projects we've got in like the seven-figure projects have like a big part of it has actually been Moxo. Like because a client, that wants something at seven figures, it's a long-term project with all these different scopes and all these different deliverables that all needs to be managed. And when they're interviewing 4 or 5 different companies, a big question that they're going to be asking is, how are you going to manage this project? How are you going to, collaborate with me? And when all these other companies are saying, we're going to email you and we'll do a meeting once a week, and then we go in and we've got this innovative platform that we display to the client, I think it's a big selling point for Summit Tech where we're like, hey, here's our platform. Everything's automated and streamlined. It's all in the one place for you. I think it's a big drawing point for a client.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense and gosh, I wish I could hear more, but
Yeah.
of course, totally understand the situation. But just hearing those deal sizes, right? I think that makes me really curious to hear, right, what is next for Summit Tech? What do you
Yeah.
see next?
Um, I think we were speaking with like my other founders and two big like sort of paths we want to go down. One is starting to develop products, um, but not just like a mobile app, but a product that we're going to be selling to companies. So, and I think even there, like Moxo is going to be like, in the background because like even Moxo, so Moxo is a product, but then you guys are using Moxo to sell Moxo. And it's going to be the same thing for us where when we're going to be selling these like enterprise level products to businesses to help automate their internal processes with AI, for example, or we've been thinking about schools and how we can bring AI into the school world. Like having Moxo like there to collaborate with the client to sell the product. So
Yeah.
not like cheaper software products, but more of the enterprise level software products is one way we want to go down. And really, again, like as I mentioned, one of the big goals for Summit Tech was bridging that gap between businesses and then the accessibility of tech for them. So I think we really want to go down building platforms where businesses can adapt to them and bring them into their systems and have AI really like as a superpower for them. Um, so I think that's like one big way we want to go down. But then another one is like sort of not like continuing down that like enterprise software field where yeah, we're doing those seven-figure projects, building like these massive platforms, um, and just building more teams around that. So recently what we've done is we've taken the top 4% of our employees, like our developers and designers, and put them into this one team. And then just what they produced in the same amount of time as our normal team was ridiculous, like the difference between them. And like bringing this team together and training them even more, and then getting them to train the other team, just to help enhance the level of work that we can do. I think that's sort of another thing that we're looking forward to.
I mean, it sounds like you have really big things on the horizon. And I know us at Moxo, we're thrilled to be supporting you in that journey and looking forward to what comes next. And so I guess, hmm, one thing that comes to mind is I think that approval chase, right? And a lot of the things that you mentioned or the pain points that you were dealing with before are things that digital marketing agencies, tech firms deal with on a daily basis. And
Yeah.
so I guess I'd love to hear if you have advice to similar firms, right? Given where you're at now, what you've been able to do and how big you've been able to scale, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest thing would be finding what works for the company and their team. And look, for us, it definitely was Moxo and a few things internally as well. Even like things as simple as like just a Excel sheet, for example. But I think finding that process and then sticking to it is so essential. And then finding a platform that allows you to do everything you need in the one place. So before, like, invoices were happening here, and then there's communication happening here, project management somewhere else. With Moxo, being able to have everything that we needed in the one platform was what allowed us to move forward and to scale and not worry about all these different things. So I guess like finding that platform that is able to at least cover 90% of what you need, and then just having that as like a templated thing for all your projects.
Your advice to other firms is really great, and it really seems like, right, Moxo has become quite the differentiator for you as well in
Yeah,
what you've
yeah,
been able to do and accomplish, right? And so I guess, on similar line, you guys work a lot with AI and automation, and so do you have any thoughts about the future of digital marketing in that sense and what you hope to achieve with it as well?
yeah, 100%. I think a big thing that we're looking at as a company is how we can not only just automate marketing and what that looks like, but enhance it and make it become something better. I think a big thing we've found with AI is it's it can do a lot when it comes to automation and replacing the human force, but it is a lot more powerful when it's paired with the human force, and that's what we've seen. So we're creating platforms and tools where our team can go onto these and just become 100 times more efficient, but then also create things that normally we couldn't create in such short time. So for example, if a client comes to us and there's just this new product they've released yesterday, rather than taking a whole month to figure out what the new marketing campaign will be, we can do that within a week and create something where we can test it with AI. We've got all the data from the market, so we can see, with this specific marketing campaign, we can estimate what the results are going to look like. So I think with yeah, the new future and with AI, like we've been able to develop all these different tools that can really enhance what marketing looks like moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more that, I think I like to call it blended automation, this
Yeah,
really
yeah,
having automation and even AI and really combining that with that human element that you
yeah,
can't get rid of when it comes to these high touch services and industries, right?
100%. Yeah, yeah,
I think it just makes this beautiful combination and not only does it I mean, automation and AI are there to assist the knowledge worker, right?
yeah,
Effectively,
yeah,
they're there as tools, like you said, and they are there to make us more efficient and us more effective and really kind of get rid of the back and forth, the chase, the approval chase that I mentioned earlier, the constant admin work and all the hours that we spend doing things that really could be taken care of by something much more efficient, right?
yeah, yeah,
I know you really shared with us how it is that leveraging Moxo allows Summit Tech to have this beautiful, I think you said high quality branded private label app,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And honestly, for a tech company operating in today's digital age, that is essential, right? And
yeah,
especially
yeah,
kind of considering what Summit Tech does.
yeah,
And I think thinking about that makes me super curious, right? As a website and a mobile app developer yourself, could you go ahead and kind of talk us through what it is that led to the decision to use Moxo for your own business operations, I guess, as opposed to, let's say, building an in-house solution?
yeah, yeah. That is a good question. I think the biggest thing for us was just like, affording to develop a mobile app for ourselves. Like something like initially when we were brainstorming, trying to figure out all the features that we need, we quoted the app for ourselves, and realistically, it would have costed us around like 80 to $100,000 just with all the employees we'd need to like put aside on the project, and then the management the resources, it would just be too expensive and it would take too long as well. Like we needed a solution pretty quickly, and it was just something that we had to jump onto. So we thought, let's take a look at a different provider. And then even when we saw Moxo, like we were looking at, would it be cheaper to develop something like Moxo or to, spend the fee on Moxo, and like ridiculously cheaper to pay for Moxo. We were looking at like 200, 300,000 Australian dollars to develop something like Moxo. So I think that, yeah, the key thing for us was like having that high quality app and it's like being affordable for us.
Wow, I mean, that's
Mm.
incredible. I mean, thanks for sharing the cost there. And
Yeah.
honestly, it makes a lot of sense too, right? It sounds like it was I would say a pretty strategic decision then, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really prioritize, I guess, your own strengths and instead of really diverting resources towards building out something that honestly already exists, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe already optimized for what you need it for, right?
Yeah.
I guess it sounds like your team is then really able to maintain probably their focus and their momentum on what matters most in that case. Yeah. And I mean, I guess one thing I really want to circle back on or circle back to is that you
Yeah.
mentioned that flows are your favorite feature, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
so could you actually go ahead and walk us through what your website development flow looks like?
So it starts with like the initial like intake and consultation. So just a few forms initially to understand more about the client and then also the project that they're looking to start with. And then we also have like a little booking element so that they can go in and book a meeting. So that initial milestones like all about understanding who they are, what their goals are, what they want with the project, um, understanding their budget, and then sort of getting the team to put together a proposal for them and then sharing that with them. Um, and then the phase after that's our research and analysis. So this is after the client said yes, they've signed the contract and they're looking to get started. That's when we'll start doing market research, understanding how we're going to develop the project, and then putting everything together and then sharing that with the client. And then once the client approves that, we go into the project kickoff. So that's sitting down with the client, approving designs, going through like the nitty gritty, like figuring out exactly what they want, what it looks like, what each different feature, like how it's gonna, look like for the user, for the admin, just all those different elements there. And then there's a little bit of like, this like blank space, which is where we go and start developing the platform. And there's normally just like a weekly like stand-up meeting with the client just to talk to them about our progress. And then from there, the client will approve the design and say, hey, everything's done. I'm happy with this. Let's move forward. Um, and then we've got like a milestone almost for not upselling them, but showcasing the different services. So things like our maintenance plans, like helping them out, teaching them, hosting all those different things that we offer, and then having that within the flow so they can like, say, yes, I want this, no, I don't want this, all those different elements. And then there's also like the project wrap up. So, sending the project to them, offboarding them, and then just making sure that they're happy with everything.
Oh, that's incredible. And this is
Yeah.
something you've built out and templatized yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
These are client accounts that you're working with, right? And so I'd imagine in such a high value and really iterative process, right? You're able to streamline, I guess, not only the actions and the process itself and the communication that happens, but also really maybe sustain that process momentum, right? It's incredible to hear that you even have this like upselling milestone.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that
yeah.
is genius.
I appreciate that.
And, yeah, I think it's just great to hear how you're able to really keep things aligned across all the various stakeholders and all these various phases of
Yeah,
development too.
yeah,
And
100%.
and so, I mean, one last thing that I would love to ask you. I know you mentioned that you fell in love with Moxo, right? And you said I think it was the creativity that actually it's allowed you to have
Yeah,
when like orchestrating your business processes effectively.
yeah, yeah,
And so I would love to ask you, right, from a developer's perspective, are there
yeah,
any
yeah,
sort of technical or maybe UX elements of Moxo that really stand out to you?
yeah,
Anything personally that you appreciate as someone who builds software yourself?
yeah, yeah. So, it's so interesting because like the part I fall in love with whenever we develop software is normally the front end. But myself, I'm very like back end orientated with like the work I do. So when it comes to the front end, it's just like such a high quality, like enterprise feel. Like it doesn't feel like it's being cheaply built or it's like templated. It looks like each component's like being developed and designed and like thought through, which is like so important. And it's so hard to see like with a lot of software out there. So it's like it's really good to see there is like that level of like quality with the software. But then when it comes from like that back end perspective, the customization's like ridiculous. Like with the flows, all the different branches and like the different elements or the customization, there's just so much work that would go into the back end to develop something like that. And it's just so cool to like, have a platform that allows you to use that.
Oh, amazing. I mean, honestly, as a product marketer myself, it feels so good to hear that, and even personally, I work in our Cupertino office with our product team, and I think they would be thrilled to hear that type of feedback.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Done a very good job. It's very good.
Oh, we're happy to hear that. We're really happy to hear that. Well, Nima, I know, I had this chance to ask you these last remaining questions of mine. I can't tell you how insightful our talk has been and really exciting. As I've said multiple times, it's been so exciting to hear how Moxo has played a role in Summit Tech's success, honestly, and even knowing that we'll be there when you in your vision or sorry, your future vision is
Yeah.
something that's
Yeah.
also very exciting for us. And
100%.
um,
Yeah.
just wanna thank you again for giving us your time and sharing all these details and I'm sure our audience will love it.
100%. No, it's been really good.
Thank you again, Nima.